What is up, guys? So, here's my 2 to 3 week updates for my web developer journey. So, I'm going to get into some topics. It's going to be quite a long video, maybe like 10 minutes or more. Alright, let's get to it. So, where I'm at now. So, basically, I started the responsive web design book, and I believe I'm like 60, 70 pages in out of like 300 pages. And I completed some parts of the advanced CSS and Sass course. Uh, I don't know the exact percentage I am in, but I'm quite a bit in. And if you want to know which course, I'll link it in the description. It's a Udemy course, so you can probably find like a discount or something like that if you look at on discount sites. And the reason I picked this course is because Angela, which is the first course I started with, she goes only on the surface level of CSS, but I wanted something that was more in depth, as I explained in the last update. So yeah, that's why I picked this. And then the third thing I was doing was working on some websites for basically putting what I learned into practice. And I'll show you that at the end of this part. It's gonna be 2 parts. So next we have what I learned / my takeaways. Okay. One of the first things I learned is that basically front end development requires basic math. When a lot of people think of front end development, they think of just design and that's it. But when you're designing a web page, you have to make sure everything interacts with each other. So like if you have like, let's take an example. If you have like a parent element that's a div, and inside those divs you have child elements, you have to do some basic math to make sure that you know that they're interacting with each other to make it responsive. Like if you have a child element that's 15% of the parent element, and you have another child element that's in pixels, you have to convert those pixels or convert that percentage into pixels in order to make sure that the web page is coming out to what you want it to look like. And the same thing applies when you're putting actual content on a page, like images. Like images. Like you want to make sure they look good on like all screens, stuff like that. So yeah, unit size, etc., etc. So the second takeaway from the past 2 weeks is that you want to implement clean code early on. The thing that I'm going to mention first off is that um, since most people are beginners when they start off, this is common sense, of course, but since you're a beginner when you start out when you're starting off, you should just focus on the fundamentals, like just making sure you know the basics, like the units, how the units work, semantics, tags, etc., etc. You just make sure you know how everything works. However, you do want to start early on implementing some clean code / optimization tactics, because if you don't, once you start building web pages, it's going to get confusing super fast. So that's why you want to implement this stuff early on. And some examples are like when you're when you're first coming up with a site idea, you want to create a sitemap, like right here, a sitemap for each page. And then once you get into the specific pages, you want to make sure that you apply some other techniques like component driven design, block element modifiers. And as far as the sitemap goes, and the website architecture goes, you want to make sure that you're using some some folder techniques like the 7-1 pattern. And this right here is a flow chart. So once you start implementing logic like with Sass and JavaScript and even Python or APIs, etc., 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 then you want to make sure that you have something like this before you touch any code at all. It's going to make your job way, way, way easier if you do this beforehand. So basically, repeating everything I said, front end requires basic math when it comes to user experience. And the second point was to implement code early on. Make sure you're prototyping your layouts. Make sure you're prototyping your design ideas. And make sure you're prototyping the website architecture before you code a single line. Alright, next. So here are my next plans for the next 5 to 6 days. I'm going to continue reading the Responsive Web Design book. Hopefully get to maybe page 200 or more, if not finish the book. And then lastly, I want to go back to the original course, which is Angela's Use Web Development course. And, just at least start the JavaScript portion. Not finish it, but start the JavaScript portion. And that's it for part 1. And in part 2, I will show you one of the websites. As you see here, I was practicing putting what I was learning into place by starting a few websites, and that's what I'll show you next. So here we are back for part 2. So here's one of the websites I was working on. It's as you can see, it's a virtual reality site for space. It's obviously, not a real product. It's just putting what I learned into practice. So I have a homepage, landing page, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why I made this page is because I want to combine a lot of the things I learned into one thing. Like, for example, here, this is the original image is a rectangle, but I used clip path to make a circle out of it. And then this right here, it moves when you scroll up and down, as you can see. And for this, I used the fixed position of I think it was, fixed position in order to make it scroll. So I was just playing around with everything to make sure I implemented many different things at once. And then we have the looped background is a GIF. And then here we have a button. But what makes this button special is that it's animated. So when you hover over it, you see it grows. And I have it looped to informate. And if you look closely, you can see that it's actually glitching. So yeah, we have many different web pages that actually work. So we have the about right here. And this is just a little about the project. And I was playing around with the dimensions, just making sure I know how to center everything. Playing around with percentages and viewports, stuff like that. So yeah, I have the footer down here. And next we have the learn page. And on the learn page, I was practicing embedding videos, whether it's from YouTube or, from some type of database that you're pulling it from, or folder or whatever. And then these actually work.
Virtual reality is a fully immersive computer-simulated environment that gives a user the feeling of being in that environment instead of the one they're actually in.
So as you can see, they actually work. And these fun facts, I was just practicing wrapping the text around some type of content. In this case, the content is a video. And all the links work, so if you click here on the logo, it takes you back to the home page. And lastly, we have the experience page. And you can get to the experience page by clicking either the button or one of these links. But in this case, I'll just click the button. So here, I wanted to imitate a type of demo, like some type of API demo that you will usually see on web applications. So this obviously isn't a real application, but I animated this text up here to blink, so it looks like the demo is actually alive, like it actually works, like just plug in your VR set to start the demo. But obviously it just doesn't work. And one of the main things that was I was having a hard time with was responsive design, which is why I picked up a book on it, so I can learn it more in depth. But if I inspect the page, you can see that I tried to make it responsive, but it's not quite there yet because I haven't implemented media queries. So once I actually implement media queries, it'll make it easier for the page to look better on mobile devices, like you would. Once I implement that, this scroll will not be here for any device. So yeah, that's one of my main goals, to make this entire website fully responsive, so it looks good on mobile, tablet, desktop. It doesn't really matter, even televisions, since we have a lot of smart TVs nowadays. So yeah, this is what I've been working on. This is just one of the websites. I have about 4 different ones I've been working on, but this is one of the main ones. So yeah, it's pretty good so far. And as I've said, if you have any questions or suggestions or whatever, just comment them below and I'll respond as quick as I can. Thank you for watching. Peace out.